Sonny, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good, Jordy. What's happening, dude?
What's going on, man? We were talking a little bit last segment, Sonny, about possibly not 2010, no Les Miles, no run game like that, but the offensive identity of some of these offensives that we've come to recognize over the last couple of seasons in college football as high-flying and putting up points and wide receivers everywhere. If there's not a small shift back to a run primary offense first, how do you feel about that when you think of some of the personnel in the SEC going into the season?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think when you also look at the quarterbacks, you last year you had experienced quarterbacks, kind of that was one of the themes with the league, and then you look around at this year, and especially with the guys that LSU plays. You don't really have a whole lot of experience. Texas A&M is going to be breaking in a new quarterback. Alabama's breaking in a new quarterback. I mean, with LSU, Max Johnson only started the last 2 games last year. And so, so I think teams are going to, that they're going to kind of get back to that thing that they know that they can, that maybe is a little bit easier to accomplish. And that is running the ball, especially with LSU. Ed Orgeron, he was not happy at all last year. 13th in the SEC, 3.3 yards a carry, barely over 120 yards a game. And, I think that, obviously, bringing back that 2019 offense was a big focus of his. But I think Jake Peetz's success with working with running backs, too, probably helped him make that decision a little bit easier. So, I think it's going to be the overall theme in the SEC, but I think it's definitely going to be the case in Baton Rouge.
Everybody you talk to up there is glowing about these 2 freshman backs in Corey Kiner and Armani Goodwin. I know you covered them in recruiting. What are you hearing now that they're on campus?
Well, I think now we see why Trey Bradford transferred. Of course, with Chris Curry, people kind of forget, but he was also in last year's running back room. They lost 2 pretty good running backs, but I think with the 2 that they're replacing, I think they really hit the nail on the head with both of them, and especially with Goodwin. I think that, I think once he gets really, really comfortable and confident catching the football and with running his routes, I really think that by the time he's in that, maybe second year, but in that third year, I think you're going to see him have some of that effect on a game and on a defense that we saw from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm not saying he's going to be as shifty and dynamic as Edwards-Helaire was, but I think you're going to see Goodwin be a really big threat in the passing game, and that's going to be a very nice complement to the style of running that Corey Kiner brings to the table. But man, that running back room, I tell you what, it's absolutely loaded when you look at it from head to bottom. From top to bottom.
Sonny Shipp joining us here from Geaux 247. Remember, you can follow Sonny and get all of the work on Twitter if you follow him there at Sonny Shipp 247. Sonny, the offensive line has been an area of concern, it seems like, since the end of last season through recruiting and now here going into fall camp, whether it's just been limited bodies or limited experience. What are you hearing about that group after scrimmage number 1?
Well, from a pass protection standpoint, I think the tackles, particularly, Cam Warner at left tackle, he had some struggles. But I think it's also, it's kind of been overblown a little bit, because something that we have to keep in mind is that, Ed Orgeron shares stats. We talk to people see a tackle getting blown up, on a few plays and stuff. But you have to take what the context of it is. Are they in third down situations? Does the defense know it's pinning its ears back? Is the tackle having to go one-on-one with that defensive end, not getting any help whatsoever, just to see what that tackle can do? So, I'm not surprised to hear that they're, that still the big concern on the offensive line is at left tackle. But I mean, it's been like that for, it seems like, forever at LSU. Yeah. Especially when you think back to last year, and even when Dare was there. Look, Dare, even when Sadiq Charles had to face his suspension in 2019, Dare also had some issues that he was having to deal with too, that kind of kept him from being able to just get thrust into the lineup and on the field in some situations. And of course, we saw it last year. And so left tackle was going to be it was always going to be the biggest question mark on this team. It was probably going to be the weakest link on this team. And just that one position, that one area that you really just can't, you can't completely rely on and depend on. And so I don't think anything has changed. Now I think the key is that, you've got to find out who that second tackle is, and that's something that I don't think that they have been able to do. I know they tried Anthony Bradford there, they've tried Garrett Dellinger there, they've tried Xavier Hill there, and right now over camp, that's going to be just as important as getting Cam Wire up to the level that he needs to be at, is finding who that number 2 tackle is going to be.
Yes, it is concerning to see also on that offensive line that nobody has really jumped out here early on in camp. No name has made a move. It seems like Dellinger was that guy, but from some reports he was banged up on Saturday, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there up front. Outside the storyline going into camp, Sonny, was who's going to be the second threat on this team behind Kayshon Boutte, who I'm expecting to have just a phenomenal season. When you think of second threat on this team, what's the first name, or what's some of the first names that pop to mind for you?
Well, the first name that I want to jump to mind is Jontre Kirkland.
That's right.
To see him build off of that spring game. But the biggest buzz that I've heard, and that has really come out of camp so far, has been the play of 2 true freshmen, Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. Those 2 guys have really, have really stepped up, have started to kind of make a move and make a climb up the depth chart. And, you really wanted to hear early on that Jeray Jenkins, Jontre Kirkland, those 2 guys were just kind of ready to build off of last year when they got so much playing time, and for them to take their game up to another level. But I think right now, going into it, I think they're still searching for that number 2 and that number 3 receiver as far as putting, etching someone in stone.
How good is the defensive line?
Man, I tell you what, you always hate to you always hate to jump the gun and say, oh man, these dudes are just going to be so bad, just so awesome. They're just loaded. But when you look at the defensive line and how much depth it is, man, it takes you back several years to be able to recall where LSU has had that much quality depth. And I think on Saturday, you saw what you saw what you were going to get out of Andre Anthony, Ali Gay, B.J. Ojulari. Those 3 guys off the edge are just going to be terrors. And then if they can get that play inside from Joe Evans, Neil Farrell, Glenn Logan, when he gets back to Quaylen Roy, Mason Smith, I mean, man, Jacoby and Guillory, you can just go down the line. And, when is the last time that LSU has been able to go 3 deep at a position on the defensive line, particularly inside, where at defensive tackle, and to where you could potentially really not have a whole lot of drop-off. If Jaquaylin Roy steps his game up like he did at the end of last season, we've already heard everything that we've heard about Mason Smith. Ed Orgeron has talked up Bryce Langston, that he's one of the best linemen that he signed. When you start going down that list of names, all of a sudden you start getting to that 4th team. That's insane.
It is. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's really insane.
And to think about what they could be at defensive end, too. I mean, I hear that B.J. Ojulari, 6 games into the season, they may look up and he might be the best player on the team.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just, when you go through that and when you try to digest all that depth and you start looking at, okay, how do they split up the snaps? Where are guys going to play? How are they going to fit in? I mean, there's just so many options that they have to work with on that defensive line. And look, if there's one area that played well at times last year on that defense, I mean, it was the defensive line. Yeah. Andre Anthony, the light kind of came on for him. Ali Gay led the team, tied for the team lead in pass breakups last year, just knocking them down at the line of scrimmage. You get that play inside to complement those guys on the edge, and it's going to allow what I guess you could consider a quote-unquote young linebacker room in terms of, the production that they've been able to put on the field and stuff, and really being able to, I guess, live up to the standards that they have. But when you start thinking about that, and then on that back end too, and how much easier it's going to make life for the secondary. I mean, it really, I think the one thing that you pull from this scrimmage right here is that you didn't have a lot of concern about the offense coming with so many guys coming back, but you just wondered if Durante Jones was going to be able to do that, do that 180 with the defense, take it from night to day. And, early on, it looks like, from talking to people, and I know you talk to people too, that that the defense is really looking good, really looking aggressive, just fast, and that they're, that they seem to be on the same page.
I hear the same thing. I hear championship level defense. The only but I get on defense is that Mike Jones is a hell of a football player. They just don't know where to put him. Do you hear that too?
Yeah. Hear that too. And some of that, I think some of that is also, we saw that in Jabril Cox last year. Jabril Cox came in, and he had that athleticism, and when he was in the right place at the right time, he made plays. But there were quite a few times to where he wasn't where he needed to be, and I think a lot of that had to do with it. North Dakota State, they put him on the edge, they dropped him back into coverage, but he didn't have to do a whole lot of reading where the ball was going, getting off blocks on the second level. And I hear that Mike Jones Jr., that those are some of the things that he's struggling with right now, that when he does know where he's supposed to be, that if he is where he is supposed to be, he makes plays. But the issue right now is just getting him familiar with playing down in the box as opposed to just freelancing and using that athleticism. Right. Once everything clicks, I think you're going to really see. You could potentially see an All-American type linebacker, in Mike Jones. The key for me is going to be, with all the talk already of him being a potential first or second round draft pick if he would choose to leave after this season, the key is going to be, could be convincing him to stay to where he has a chance to really just own all those skills.
Yeah. Sonny Shipp from Go 247. Incredible information that you get from the guys over there. Sonny's got a great article on this week's scrimmage if you are a subscriber. That you've got access to. If you are not, make sure you get your subscription heading into football season. Last one, I'll get you out of here on this one. Ricks and Stingley did not play this weekend. Whether it's historical reference or just on potential alone, this is the best two LSU's had going into the season, right? And just what they could be.
Yeah, I think so. You go back to when Patrick Peterson and Ja Eugene were here. You had both of those guys were ranked, either the number one or number two cornerback in their class. Of course, Ja had some struggles and didn't really live up to that ranking when he was there. But I think you're going to see it with Ricks and Stingley. I mean, this is just if they both stay healthy this year, then it's which side do you go at? Do you go at Stingley? Do you go at Ricks? Do you test slot in the nickel? DBU wasn't anywhere to be found on that field last year. I have a feeling that they're going to be looking to make a statement this year and say that, hey, we're back.
Sonny, have a great week, man. Thank you for starting it off with us here in the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll touch base soon.
You too, brother. Have a good week, man.
You got it. There is Sonny Shipp checking in this morning from Go 247, one of the best